Welcome to the Birth Bootcamp podcast. I am Cheryl Ameling, the certification coordinator.
I'm Liana Wolf, the administrator.
And today we have with us Annalise Levenduski to continue our summer of birth stories. We are so excited to have you. We're going to just jump right in. So, Annalise, tell us just a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you from? How many children do you have? Things
Sure.
like that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm from Longmont, Colorado, born and raised, and I have 4 children, 15, 14, almost 2.5, and 7 months old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't realize that there was like a gap like that. Okay.
Yes.
So you have a baby, like you have a baby on your hip right now.
Baby, yeah. Luckily
Yeah.
he's upstairs right now, but yes, totally. And it's usually on.
Right now, as in like I live life with a baby on my hip.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Okay. And then you're a birth boot camp doula.
Yep.
So when did you certify?
I actually certified right after I had my 4th baby.
Okay. Okay. So did you do in person? Did you do online? What did that look like for you?
I did online. I had already attended a few births, mainly just girlfriends, people that I knew that wanted some support. And it was something that I really wanted to do after I had my 3rd child, but then I was almost immediately pregnant again.
Mhm.
So I just decided, it was best if I just wait until I have my last baby. And then I kind of just, I did a lot of the work, I guess, like, all the reading
Mhm.
materials, all of that while I was pregnant. It felt like it kind of just gave me something to do as well.
Yeah.
And
Because you
so
were bored.
yeah, not really, but
Exactly.
all the time on my hands, I saw
Exactly.
to read books.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was just a passion that I have always, wanted to follow. And I just decided, why not go for it after I know that, this is my last baby. So I'm gonna go
Yeah,
for it.
I love that. And your online doing the online option was really great. Like having, being pregnant, so you could just do it all at home while you're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Awesome.
liked that because then it was kind of on my own time. And,
Yeah.
sometimes I'd be halfway through a module and I'd have to stop because, kids are calling. So,
Exactly.
personally, it worked for me.
Good. Good. I love that. All right.
I need to interject really quickly. You said you're from Longmont. Do you currently live in Longmont?
We just moved to Berthoud.
Okay.
It's like about 10 minutes outside of Longmont.
Okay. I'm down in Denver.
Okay. Oh, fun. Okay.
Oh
Oh,
my gosh. We'll connect later.
yes. Yes, let's do.
I love it.
All right. I'm gonna dive in for the next question for you. So you had your first 2 children in the hospital. Can you tell us briefly about kind of how those played out, how you prepared for them, and all the associated feelings that come with those?
Yeah. So I was very young when I had my first 2. I was 18 and 19, and I had support of, um, my parents, but my mom basically told me, like, when you go in, this is what you want, this is what you do. And me, I think, just being so young at that time in my life, I listened to her, and that's what she did for herself. And so I thought, well, I'll do what she did. Um, and so I followed her roadmap of how I should have a baby. And to be honest, it was traumatizing and it was hard. And um, my whole experience with both hospital births with my first 2 were unpleasant. I would have to say that my second was easier than my first. Maybe, typically second babies are a little bit easier. But it was still, I remember wanting to try for a natural birth, and I got into the tub and it was, contractions hit. And I was like, oh my gosh. And immediately it was like, okay, get out. We're going to call for an epidural. So I had zero support in that aspect of, you know, trying to help me breathe through contractions and trying to, calm my mind and body and everything. And I think that's when really kind of initiated after I had my second child, um, just the doula work and really having support by somebody. Because I think if I had the proper support, I would have pushed and I would have done what I really wanted to do in the first place, which was have a natural birth.
Yeah. Yeah, support is so huge. Like that's one of the things we talk about so much here at Birth Boot Camp is that like it having support, having education, having like building that birth team to give you what you're wanting. And there's so much, you don't know what you don't know. And so it's like looking back, I'm sure you can kind of see, especially now with your education as a doula and your other experiences, like you can
Yeah.
see how those things played out and
Yeah.
and how it ended.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of to touch base on your question, when I went in, there was a lot of interventions.
Mm.
There was the Pitocin, there was breaking of the waters, then there was loss of heartbeat. So then they put in the fetal monitor into his head. And um, had I not, had an intervention in the first place, would I have had all of those interventions? I don't know. I believe no, but
Hmm.
you know so it was just when I had my other two, I knew I wanted to do something different for myself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's kind of dive into that. So unless you have any other questions for Liana.
Don't.
No. Okay. Um, so kind of how did you make that transition from your two hospital births to home births? Like was home birth something that you were familiar with? Was this something you sought out? Did you like how did you find out about it and kind of how did that play out?
Sure. I think just over the span of 12 years, I grew a lot as an individual and I became more holistic in certain things. I really started looking at, what ingredients were in my food and how I was treating my body and how like my mind was treating my body. And along the way, I found, new friends in my life. And I had spoken to a few that had natural birth and birth centers, and then I have another friend that had all home births. And so I just kind of, listened and watched as, they gave birth to their babies. And it was just something that I just had a feeling deep down that I wanted to do that. And I wanted to be in control of
Hmm.
my own body and my baby. I didn't want somebody else to tell me what I needed to do or tell me what I needed to do for my baby. So I think that's what really kind of pushed me to do that. Um, and then to top it off, it was COVID.
Oh.
So I was
Hmm.
not about to go into a hospital and not have my husband be there or have to wear a mask while pushing. Like, no, hands down, that was just a hard no. So it was just kind of a no brainer. My husband and I were like, no, this is what we're doing and we're going to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Um, so did you prepare for these births any differently than you prepared for your hospital births or like what kind of preparation did you and your husband do for these?
I think I watched a lot of videos. I found a lot of great accounts on like Instagram, and just started following people. I interviewed a handful of midwives, and then I found two that I really felt connected to after interviewing them. And what I really liked about that is I was able to choose my main midwife and then my secondary, um,
Mhm.
which for me that was huge because I wanted to be comfortable with whoever was going to be in my sacred space in my home.
Right.
Um, and so I would just, I would read things, I would do my own research on things. And through that, I was educating myself as well. A lot of the things of the midwives, have you looked at the vaccines? Have you looked at circumcision? Have you looked at the eye ointment? And just thinking back to my first two hospital births, I'm like, well, I mean, isn't that just what you do? And
Right.
she's like, well, no, you have a choice. And for me, I was like, oh, I do. You're right. I do. I have the
Hmm.
choice. So, I started doing my own research, and her biggest thing was do your own research, and you come, based off of how you feel as a family, you let me know what you decide. And there's a lot of things that I researched that I didn't know. I watched videos on circumcision, which I wish I could erase out of my mind, but I'm also glad that I didn't, or that I did. Luckily, I did not, for me, I did not circumcise my firstborn in the hospital. I just had this mama bear instinct where I was like, nope, you're not taking my baby. Sorry.
Mhm.
Like, you're not going to hurt him. You're not going to touch him. I'm going to keep him. But the more I actually researched things, I was just blown away. So we made it, we made our decisions that we made as a family, and I feel really, really good from. But I was really proud of myself and my husband that we were able to make our decisions based off of the research that we did by ourselves, not what pamphlets the hospital gave us or anything like that. And I'm not saying that, hospitals are bad, but
Yeah, of course.
for us, it was just, it was a good thing that we were able to do stuff on our own.
Yeah. I love that you said that you were proud of yourselves. Like, I think that that is so huge. Like, I think especially as moms, we criticize ourselves a lot. We're like, I should have done this, or I should have done that, or I need to be better, or blah 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 blah. And I think to like look at like this very big thing that you're doing, preparing for a baby, and to look back and be like, I'm really proud of ourselves. Like
Yeah.
we did a good job with that. And and I think there's a lot of power too in making your own decisions, and and then whatever happens with that, you made the best decision that you knew at the time. It wasn't because somebody told you to, or because that's what you do, or because a pamphlet told you. It was like, this is what we felt was best for us, and however that plays out, that was the starting point. And I think that that is I think that is so important.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
The very definition of empowerment there.
mhm. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. So tell us about your home births.
Okay. So my first home birth, like I said, it was in the middle of COVID. And the midwives came, and they ended up coming at about 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke up at about 11 p.m. With some contractions, and I just went to the couch by myself to try to, see if it was the real thing, and started timing them. And I went to go wake up my husband, and it's so funny. I was like, babe, it's time. He's like, no, it's not. I'm like, no, it is. It's time. And he kept telling me like, no, let's just wait. I'm like, I really think we need to call the midwife. He's like, 10 more minutes. I'm like, okay, fine, 10 more minutes. And he kept falling back asleep. And I'm like, no, you really need to like get up.
I
And
love it.
so I got him up, and he's, half asleep. We called the midwife, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna start packing my things and head your way. So she got there about 2 o'clock. Um, we were not prepared. We did not set up the tub. We did not, we, we didn't do anything that we should have because we thought we had more time.
Mhm.
And um, even though I was 4 days early with him, I still, for some reason in my mind, thought that I had more time. It was kind of like one of those things, you wait that 9.5 months to have a baby. And then when it comes, you're like, I can wait. It's fine. I can wait like another week or two.
Right, right.
So it's kind of like that. So we had nothing prepared. I just remember them setting, the tub up, and I was on a ball and breathing through contractions. And then they asked if I wanted to get in the tub. So I first went to the bathroom, which I feel like is the best help when you do a home birth, is just, going to the toilet where your body just naturally kind of relaxes and releases. Came back into the tub, and at about 8:30, my water broke. And I can remember both the midwives, getting all their stuff ready, and my body just started pushing, and I thought, oh, great, this is going super fast here. He's coming, and then all of a sudden, labor starts slowing down. So this started happening. So I get out of the tub. I sat on the chair. My midwife always asked my permission, which I loved. She asked if she could check me, and I said yes. And I had a cervical lip. And so she had to move it out of the way. and baby kept engaging in the birth canal, and then he'd go right back up. And so it was just this game that we were playing for hours. And I mean, hours. And then finally, I kind of leaned on my husband, and she did like the shaking of the apples. And I remember that felt so good because he was sitting on a nerve. And so I couldn't feel my legs. It was almost as if like, have you ever like sat down on like the toilet and your legs go numb? Like they get tingly.
Mhm.
And so like it hurts to move your toe because you're like, oh, I got like a dead leg or whatever. My legs were like that the whole entire time. And so it was hard for me to actually like get up and move and get into certain positions. Um, and we decided not to get a doula for this birth, which looking back, I'm like, that was really dumb of us. But my husband and I were very like, we're a really good team. So we're like, we got this. It's good. We've practiced. We've done all this stuff. I really wish we would have had a doula because he was exhausted. I was exhausted. I can remember labor started slowing down again. And so the midwives, I could hear them talking and they said, we're going to give you some alone time, let the oxytocin start flowing. And I remember they kind of left the room and things started picking back up. My husband and I were, he's talking to me and encouraging me. And I remember I told him, I was like, I cannot do this any longer. And he said, I'm sorry, hon, you don't have a choice. And I was like, oh, you're right. And so things started picking back up right then. And I remember they came back and they said, okay, Annalise, like we're going to try one more thing. Cause we had tried everything, every position, like nothing was working. And they said, we're going to have you lay on your back. So I was like, okay. So by then I was exhausted of being on my hands and knees. So I laid down and started pushing with some guided pushes by my midwife. And he started engaging, which was great. So I pushed for probably close to 45 minutes to an hour. He was finally born at 12:43 and he came up out posterior. So he was
Ooh.
completely sunny side up. And I was that lucky 5% of people that he never ended up turning once he actually engaged. He stayed up the whole entire time. So that's looking back at it, that is what made my labor so much more longer and more intense, and the
Yeah.
back pain, the nerve on the leg and everything. Um, but I can remember I never once felt scared. I never once felt like I was in danger or that my baby was in danger. I felt so cared for in a way that I had never felt in the hospital ever. I mean, hospital births, I just remember panic. I remember panic, intervention, hurry up, everything was rushed. And then home birth was very, very calm, very like encouraging. You're doing a great job. I mean, the care that I got with my son after was like nothing that I've seen on this earth. I mean, they were so good with him. Um, so when I got pregnant a second time, and I got pregnant when he was a year old, it was just a no-brainer. Like, we're going to have a home birth again. I think this is why we have amnesia, is because you
Oh
can
yeah.
go through, pain, but then I always try to tell people, um, it's not pain like you break your arm.
Right.
It's a different kind of pain that like gives you this euphoria of happiness. It's like, yes, you go through pain, but you also are greeted with something that's so joyful that you just forget about it. It's not like when you break your arm and you remember it. It's like, oh my gosh, that was so painful. And then you're sitting there for days in pain. Not like that at all.
Right.
Um, so it was a no-brainer for us. We were going to do it. We were going to use the same midwives. I flip-flopped the midwives this time just because we did move to birth ed. And so my secondary was closer to me this time. So for us, it was just, planning when we did have the baby. Um, and I ended up having my fourth 11 days early, but we were prepared this time. we had gotten the birth tub really early. I think like, I don't know, 3 weeks early. We had it all blown up. We just set it on the side of the room. We had the pads ready. Like we had everything ready. So I remember that day I was just feeling like really nauseous and dizzy. And I didn't think too much of it just because I still had 11 days left of being pregnant. I for sure thought all of my pregnancies went to 39 weeks and 3 or 4 days. So I thought I'll at least carry him until then. So I took a nap, which I'm not a napper. I can't nap. I took a little nap that day. And then um, my 20-month-old at the time, he was just being extra sweet to me. I mean, like grabbing my face and kissing me and just like, he's very sweet, but it was extra that day. It was like he was feeling something. And so we put him to bed and I laid down, and about 9:40, well, about 9 o'clock, I was having contractions, but it was nothing out of the norm. I was in predominant labor for, I think, a couple weeks. I even had to call my midwives and take some, it's called womb ease. It's a tincture just
Mm.
to help your uterus just calm down.
Yeah.
Because they were getting intense. And so I just thought this was another little episode. I had taken a bunch of that, thinking I'll just take it, I'll go to bed, try to relax. And then all of a sudden, 9:45, I'm like, I did not pee the bed. I know I did not pee the bed. So I got up, walked to the bathroom, just stood there for a minute, and sure enough, my waters had broke. So I walked down the hall. He was still with my first, or our son, and I woke him up, babe, it's time. And this time he did get up because I think he learned. He did get up this time. So we were prepared. We like laid all the pads down. We put the pool. We filled it. And my contractions were super inconsistent, not painful at all. And I was just kind of like, okay, I don't really know what's going on. So I text the midwife and she said, if things start picking me up, let me know, or I can come now. And I was like, don't worry about it. I'll just let you know when they pick up. So my husband and I were trying to lay down, but we were both so anxious. We couldn't really do anything. So we were kind of laying in bed and talking and kissing, and the oxytocin kicked in. And I had one really strong contraction that jumped me out of bed. And at this point, it was about 1:55 a.m. And I remember I stood up because I wanted to try to stand I was like, I'm going to try to stand as much as I can this home birth. And I got super dizzy, super nauseous, felt like I was going to pass out. So I told my husband, like, lay me on my side. So I laid on my side and I could just feel my waters just gushing out of me. And we called the midwife and she's like, I'm on my way. Of course, it was a blizzard that night. So her
Oh my
15-minute
gosh.
drive turned into a 30-minute drive. And I remember she got there and I was like, I need to get up. I need to go pee. I just knew that I needed to get stuff going. And so I went to the bathroom, sat on the toilet, and jumped off the toilet onto my hands and knees, and my body just started pushing. So I had a very, very um, fast predominant labor. And I remember my body just kind of kept pushing, and I kept looking at the tub, and I'm like, I just want to get right there. It's just a couple steps. So I told my husband, I'm gonna go over there. So we got up. I had one contraction when I was standing up, and um, I didn't force myself to push. I just allowed my body to do it itself. And I remember my midwife looked and said, I see the head, so you need to choose if you're going to get in the water, because you can't get in, then go back out. I'm like, yes, I want to get in the water. Got in, had one contraction, my body pushed a little bit, and then I had another, and I pushed and I guided his head out myself. And I remember hearing her say, okay, I'm just going to check something. Oh, well, oh, never mind. There's the whole body. I mean, he just came out in one push. And it was an hour and a half. He was born at 3:24. So active started at like 1:55, and then he was born at 3:24 and came just blazing in. And it was amazing. It was surreal. My husband and I were in shock because I wasn't expecting a baby 11 days early. Um, and I had in my mind, I was going to have a very long, drawn out labor, like my
Yeah.
first home birth. and it was polar opposite. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
for me, it was really cool because I got to work with the same team of midwives, and I got to experience myself, something really, really tough and hard where most women, if you were in a hospital setting, would get rushed for a C-section. Um, but I kind of, for me, it's kind of like, oh, I proved the odds that yes, women can birth a baby if he's posterior. And then I had the polar opposite of that baby that just wants to come and shoot out quickly.
Yeah. They were in a hurry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you for sharing those.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I love how different even your two home births were. It just shows that, I mean, a lot of people think that hospital births are going to be one way and home births are going to be another way. And I mean, you still had a long labor and process through your first home birth, but I love how you talked about the difference in your support and being in your own space and having your midwives and that care, and there's no rush, and you're doing fine and baby's doing fine. So there's no reason to rush. And I love that you had, I mean, I don't love that you had a posterior baby because I've had that and it's not fun.
No.
um, but I love hearing the difference even in your two home births. I just think that's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you. And we did plan for a doula for the second. Um,
Right.
but he literally came so fast that she didn't make it, and the second midwife missed the birth by 6 minutes. So
Oh my goodness.
it was just
Wow.
one of those things. But again, like I felt fully confident that even if either of them didn't make it in time, I felt totally confident birthing my own baby because I just felt safe in my own home. My husband was very, very calm and supportive, and um, I do have to say, both home births, being able to just lay in your bed with your significant other and just enjoy that golden hour of just pure bliss with your baby and nobody's bothering you is amazing. I
Mhm.
mean, I think,
Yeah.
that in itself compared to what I went through with my first two, um, that was another reason that hindered my decision for the second home birth is like, yeah, no, I want to be in my own home
Yeah.
when this is all over with and be with you and be able to cuddle and all the things. So yeah,
I love that. I think it's so perfect.
thanks.
Mhm.
All
Feel
right.
like you just kind of you went through all of our questions without us having to go through all the questions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yay,
You are a great storyteller.
thanks.
Yeah.
Guess that means I like to talk a lot. I don't know.
No, I think it's great. Um, so one aspect of birth that I really love is the emotional aspect, like with the thoughts that are going through your head during labor. Or so did you have any moments of like I don't know, like specific things um that you remember, or like a special moment with you and your partner, or like I don't know, you kind of did. I mean, you're right, Leona, like she totally answered all the questions. But or like one of those like I did this moments, like
Yeah,
did you have like some okay, you answer the question.
yeah, yeah. No, I definitely like I freaking did this. I had that after both of them because they were both so different, but they were both so intense in their own ways. And
Yeah.
I remember the first time, um, I would have loved to have a doula. Just like I said, my husband was so exhausted. But the midwives were very caring too. And I can remember one of them was just kind of stroking my hair and my head. And I remember that felt so good. And they were just telling me, like, you're doing such a good job. And at the end, when I told my husband I can't do this, his encouraging words really helped. And then in the second home birth, it was a different kind of pain. Um, Whereas my first one was a lot of back labor, but I had longer in between each contraction. With the second one, it was like zero breaks.
Mm.
It was like these super hard, intense in the front contractions with zero breaks. And I remember, I had this huge list of all these things I wanted. I wanted massage. I wanted more touch. I wanted to stand. I wanted to move. I wanted all of these things. I did have the TENS unit on my back, which I feel like that felt really good. But they were so intense that I felt primal. And I remember grabbing my husband, like he was gonna hip squeeze me, and I was like, no, like don't even touch me. And I remember I wanted to just grab his shoulder and just push against him. Like I needed like a force to push up against. Um, and it was for me, it was like a bizarre thing that was going on, but also after each one, I would like, it was almost like I'd start meditating and I would just calm myself. And I remember my midwife told me that after, she's like, you did a really good job at just like zeroing and coming back down to like ground zero in between. She goes, because a lot of predominant labors that I've seen like that, women, their eyes will dilate huge and they almost get very primal like, but very, very loud and almost aggressive because everything's happening so much. And I felt like that. And I told her, I said, I felt wild. I felt like this like animal or something. And she's like, no, you definitely were. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, that's good, I guess. Um, but then after that happened and I, guided my own baby out and this time was actually able to like catch him and feel his head come out, I was like, oh my God, like I just did that. Like we
Yeah.
worked together as a team and I just birthed my own baby and I was so proud of myself. And I know my husband was too. And he was, super smiley and happy. And um, but yeah, man, you can have all these plans for home birth. And it's great to have a plan. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can go with a little bit of your plan, right? Like I got my TENS unit. I didn't do the massage or anything else. But I think the biggest thing is to not um, beat yourself up if you're not following your plan because sometimes plans change. And as long as you can just trust within yourself and your partner and your team that you chose for your birth, everything will be okay. I think it's when you start worrying, that's when things can get a little chaotic.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. That's the emotional aspect of birth is like, that's what like fires up my soul. Like, I love
It's
it.
crazy.
I love it. So yeah, I love that you said that, like that you felt like primal, like this wild animal. I think that's,
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
very appropriate description.
It is.
it
Yeah. And I
is.
totally thought I like maybe sounded primal. And they're
Mhm.
like, no, you really weren't even that loud. I'm like, geez, okay, well,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
head, I thought I was.
Right. I was like roaring and
Yeah.
thrashing, and they were like, no, no, you were just sort
Yeah.
of like, hi, I'm having another contraction.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
weird. I do have to say the sounds that come out of your body are like none other that you will ever make in your entire lifetime.
that
Only
is
when you
true.
give birth. It's
Yes.
bizarre.
That is true.
Bizarre and cool at the same time.
It's true. It's true.
Yep.
Well, I love it. Um, do you have any social media or website or anything that we can follow you?
I do. I have an Instagram page for my doula work. It's just Annalise Doula
Okay.
on Instagram. And I do a little bit of like maternity photography
Oh,
as well. So I post a little bit of that. Um, and I'm a huge advocate for women listening to their bodies and not letting, the mainstream healthcare take over. I just think that everybody should be in charge of their own decisions. Um, and whatever you decide for your own body, that's great. But um, the care that I think women deserve and the care that the babies deserve are something that I really advocate for. So,
yeah.
yeah,
I love that.
thanks.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah, of
spending this
course.
time with us and telling your stories. And I think, when we talk about preparation for birth, like one thing that is so helpful to women is listening to good birth stories and listening to a variety. So, they heard a variety here today. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, friends, subscribe, like, leave a comment. I don't know, whatever. Well, all the things that you're supposed to do for podcasts, do that for us. And we will see you guys next time.